What would you do if you walked into your own mother's kitchen and caught someone pouring poison into her food? That was the nightmare Emily faced the day she came home unannounced. In that single moment, her entire family's secrets began to unravel. A mother's trust was shattered, a sister-in-law's envy was exposed, and a daughter was forced to choose between silence and justice. This is not just a story about food or family, it's about how envy can rot the heart and betrayal can strike from the closest hand. Stay with me, because this tale will shock you. Before we begin, if you enjoy stories that reveal the hidden truths of family, betrayal, and life's toughest choices, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps bring more of these powerful tales to light. Emily had not planned to stop by that day. After a long morning at the office in Lagos, her body was crying for rest. She wanted to head straight home to her husband and children, maybe collapse into bed for a quick nap before dinner. But as she drove past the turn toward her family house, something in her chest refused to settle. It was that same restless tug she had felt a few times before, the kind her mother always called the spirit's nudge. With a sigh, she turned her car and drove down the familiar dusty road. The compound gate creaked loudly as she pushed it open, and right away she noticed the silence. Usually, Mama's voice would carry through the walls, either humming hymns or greeting passers-by with her warm laughter. But that afternoon the house was too quiet, almost heavy. Emily frowned, her heels clicking softly against the cement floor as she stepped inside. From the distance came the faint clatter of a spoon knocking against a pot in the kitchen. It was ordinary enough, but something about the sound made her heart pound faster. Emily slowed her steps as she drew closer. The kitchen door was slightly ajar, and through it she saw Sarah, her brother's wife, leaning over Mama's pot of stew. At first glance, it looked like cooking, but Emily's eyes caught the small brown bottle in Sarah's hand. With trembling fingers, Sarah tilted the bottle and let a few drops fall into the bubbling stew. Emily's breath caught in her throat. She stood frozen, her mind racing. Just then, Sarah turned and nearly jumped out of her skin when she saw Emily in the doorway. "Emily, you just appeared like a ghost," she said with a nervous laugh, quickly shoving the bottle into the pocket of her dress. Emily's voice was firm, though her hands shook. "Sarah, what did you just put into the pot of stew?" The silence between them thickened, the stew still bubbling, as if it too was waiting for an answer. "My people, let me ask you, if you walked in on your in-law like this, would you shout immediately or stay quiet and watch first?" Emily set her bag gently on the sofa, her eyes wandering across the walls that still held the memory of her childhood. This was the house where she and Daniel had grown up, where their late father once sat every evening with his cup of Lipton, calling out greetings to anyone who passed the veranda. After Papa died, people advised Mama to get a maid. "Mama, you're not young anymore, let someone help you." But she refused flatly. "Strangers should not serve me in my husband's house. I know how I like my things, and I will keep it so until God calls me." It was then that Daniel suggested moving in with his wife. At first it seemed like the perfect solution. Sarah agreed with a smile, though everyone knew their rent in town had been weighing them down. Still, on the surface, the move was seen as duty and love. Daniel would handle the bills, Sarah would keep the kitchen. Mama, stubborn and proud, allowed it. Emily, however, had her own household. She was married with 2 children, and though she visited often, sometimes even twice a week, she couldn't be in her mother's house daily. That responsibility had naturally fallen on Daniel and his wife. At first, it seemed things were running smoothly, but Emily began to notice the small frictions. She remembered one day clearly. Sarah had served watery melon soup to Mama's church women. Mama, half joking, half serious, said with a chuckle, "Next time let Emily show you how I like it." The visitors laughed, but Emily saw the way Sarah's jaw tightened. Since that day, Sarah guarded the kitchen like a fortress. Even when Mama tried to enter, Sarah would say softly but firmly, "Mama, please leave it for me to handle." The words sounded polite, but the undertone was sharp. She carried that grudge as heavy as Olumo rock, and it showed in the way she stirred every pot with quiet anger. When Emily stepped into Mama's room that evening, her heart sank. Mama was slumped in her armchair, her face tired and her once bright eyes now dim. This was the same woman who used to chase them around the compound when they misbehaved, the same Mama who would rise before dawn to prepare breakfast and lunch boxes or sing hymns while cooking stew. Seeing her so frail was like seeing a giant tree stripped of its leaves. Emily knelt and took her mother's hand. "Mama, are you all right?" she asked softly. Margaret forced a faint smile. "It's just age, my daughter. These days my body is not the same. I get tired easily." But Emily's spirit was not at peace. Mama's decline had been too sudden, too sharp, like a candle burning out before its time. Emily's eyes swept over the room. Bowls of untouched food sat on the side table. She remembered when Mama used to laugh and tease, saying, "If I don't eat well, where will my strength come from?" Now her mother hardly had the energy to talk. Emily squeezed her hand tighter. "Mama, when did this weakness start?" Margaret sighed. "Some months now. Sarah says she wants to take care of me, so she insists I eat only what she prepares. She says it is for my health." Emily's heart hardened. Her mind flashed back to the bottle Sarah had slipped into her dress pocket. She could not shake the thought that Mama's weakness and that bottle were tied together. If you were in Emily's shoes, would you confront Sarah immediately or hold your tongue and gather evidence first? Let me know your choice in the comments. Emily's mind would not rest. That image of Sarah tipping liquid into the stew replayed again and again. When Sarah stepped out of the house to answer a phone call, Emily's feet carried her back into the kitchen. She searched quickly, her heart pounding so loud she feared it would give her away. She pushed aside spice jars, tinned tomatoes, Maggi cubes, until finally her fingers brushed against the small brown bottle tucked behind the salt. Her hand trembled as she picked it up. The label had been scratched off, and when she twisted the cap open, a sharp chemical smell stung her nose. It wasn't medicine. It wasn't seasoning. Emily's stomach tightened like a fist. This was poison. Just then footsteps echoed. Sarah stood at the doorway, her face draining of color as she spotted the bottle in Emily's hand. "Give me that!" she barked, her voice louder than usual. Emily turned, fire in her eyes. "Sarah, what is this? What have you been putting in Mama's food?" Sarah's lips quivered, then twisted into a bitter smile. "You will never understand. Do you know what it feels like to live in this house, treated like a servant? Your mother never respected me. Everything is about you, Emily. And when she goes, who do you think she will leave everything to? You." The words poured out like venom. Emily's grip tightened on the bottle. "So you thought the answer was to poison her?" The silence that followed was heavier than thunder. Emily stormed into the sitting room, the brown bottle clutched like a weapon, her voice cracked with fury. "Mama, look at this. Sarah has been putting this inside your food." Margaret's eyes widened, her thin frame trembling as she struggled to sit up. Sarah, after I opened my doors to you, after I let you live in my home, eat my food, share my table, this is how you repay my kindness and love. Her voice rose, each word heavy with pain. I treated you like a daughter, and this is how you plan to send me to an early grave? The weight of her words filled the room like thunderclouds ready to burst. Sarah dropped to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably, her tears hitting the tiles like rainfall. I didn't mean to kill you, Mama. I just wanted control. I was tired of being invisible in this house. I just wanted you weak so you would depend on me. So Daniel and I would have more say in this house. Emily gets everything. You only listen to her. I wanted things to change. Her sobs echoed through the room, raw and desperate. Emily's voice cut in sharply, her hand already reaching for her phone. Mom, there is no need for long speeches. We need to get you to the hospital right now, and I'm calling the police. This has gone too far. Her hands shook as she dialed, the brown bottle still clenched in her fist. Sarah crawled forward, clutching at Emily's legs, crying, Please don't do this. Think of Daniel, think of the family. But Emily shook her off, her jaw set. You thought of no one when you tried to poison Mama. Now you will answer for it. The room fell silent, broken only by the sound of Margaret's labored breathing and Sarah's desperate sobs. The ambulance siren wailed through the street as neighbors peeked through their windows, whispering in shock. Emily stayed by her mother's side, clutching her frail hand as the paramedics lifted her onto the stretcher. Margaret's eyes fluttered open weakly. Don't talk, Mama. Save your strength. Behind them, Sarah stood shaking, her once proud face streaked with tears. The police had arrived, and 2 policemen held her by the arms, their expressions stern. As they led her out, she cried, Please, forgive me. Emily, think of Daniel. Think of my children. But Emily's eyes blazed with cold fire. You should have thought of them before you tried to kill the woman who sheltered you and opened her arms to you. The gate clanged shut behind the officers, and the compound grew heavy with silence. Weeks later, Margaret was back home, recovering slowly. Emily had spent nights by her side at the hospital, making sure her meals were safe and her medicine taken on time. Daniel moved out after the incident but visited often, his face drawn with shame, unable to meet his sister's eyes. His marriage was in ruins, his home broken by his wife's betrayal. Word spread quickly through the neighborhood, and Sarah's name became a cautionary tale. Some said Emily was too harsh to involve the police, others said she did the only right thing. But Emily knew in her heart that she had no choice. A family secret can be hidden, she told herself, but not when it becomes a death sentence. Margaret, though still weak, clasped her daughter's hand one evening and whispered, You saved me. Emily, God used you to expose evil. Emily nodded, her eyes burning with both relief and sorrow. Life has a way of showing us that not all battles come from strangers outside our walls. Sometimes the deepest wounds are inflicted by those who eat from the same pot, those we call family. Betrayal then cuts sharper than a knife because it comes wrapped in trust. A stranger's hatred may sting, but the poison of envy from a familiar hand lingers far longer. That is why people say, it is not the enemy outside that destroys a home, it is the termite within the wood. Sarah's story is not just about a bottle of poison. It is about the slow poison of envy, the kind that eats the heart long before it touches another person's food. Envy blinds the eyes until blessings look like curses and simple corrections sound like insults. Left unchecked, it can turn a heart meant for love into a weapon of destruction. If only Sarah had opened her mouth to speak instead of using her hand to harm, maybe the story would have been different. And yet, life also teaches us that truth has a way of rising. Emily's restless spirit that led her home was not chance, it was God's timing. Evil can hide in shadows, but light will always find it. My people, let us guard our hearts against envy, speak when we feel slighted, and remember that respect and love are earned through kindness, not force. Because in the end, it is better to eat plain gari in peace than to dine on rich stew laced with betrayal.